Welcome back to this week's episode of the Lady Landlords podcast. I am your host, founder of Lady Landlords, Becky Nova. Thank you so much for joining me here today. What I want to do is we've had so many women join Lady Landlords in the past few months here that I want to make sure to welcome all of you new members, share a little bit about my story to get you caught up to our group so you can really best use our community. And then today's episode, what we're going to be talking about is just some life updates, some other things that have been going on with me, within our community, within real estate investing. And then also I want to tell you a little bit about what's going on in my rental portfolio at this point in time. Then from there, just want to share some of the amazing successes that I've been able to see within the Lady Landlords community, within our inner circle, our mentorship program, which is some really amazing things that some members have been able to do recently. So if you are new to the Lady Landlords podcast, hi. Once again, my name is Becky Nova. I am the founder of Lady Landlords. Here is how I got started. I'm originally from New York, lived there most of my life, went down to undergrad in Washington, D.C. area, and then moved back to New York for graduate school a couple of years later. Background's actually in cancer research. I had worked running clinical trials for pharmaceutical companies and hospitals for about 15 years or so. But back in my 20s, I actually left the research industry, left the pharmaceutical world. I actually moved over to Spain. I used to own a tour company in Spain. Probably my claim to fame is I have taught more people how to play beer pong than probably anybody else you will ever meet in your life. Used to run historical walking tours, pub crawls, took people out to go see flamenco, take people to go try different Spanish foods. Absolutely loved it. And I expanded my business into Portugal. I bought a bar in Portugal, and then I bought a little bus to take people from my tour company in Spain out to Portugal to run them through my restaurant and then actually take them back to Spain. Did that for years. Unfortunately, though, buying that bar in Portugal was a really, really bad business idea. Lost a ton of money, had to sell my business in Spain. And honestly, I lost a little over $100,000 on my restaurant in Portugal and really moved back to the States broke, poor, horrible credit, completely in debt, a little demolished with the whole, business kind of closing and all that, and had to really rebuild from that point in time. At that point, I was fortunate to meet my now husband. His name's Emilio. He's actually an immigrant from the Dominican Republic. And it was very important for him when he moved to the States to go after that American dream, not only land of opportunity, but for him, being a homeowner was so important to him to be able to have his own place that he could call home, that he could feel secure in was really important to him. But as I said, we were living in New York. I just went through losing this business and was trying to build back financially. So I said to him, listen, if we're going to move forward with buying a property, if this is something that really is going to be important, cool, I'll compromise. I actually want to go move abroad again. But okay, as you do in marriage, you compromise, you agree to do things that are kind of for the better of the relationship for the family. And that was something that at that point in time, I said, okay, let's buy a house, but we have to find a way to make money by purchasing real estate. I'm not just going to sit here and live paycheck to paycheck. That was something I knew I did not want to ever go back to. So in 2018, we bought our first rental property. And honestly, I fell in love with it. Absolutely in love with it. At the closing, I got a check for the tenants that actually lived in that very first property with us. And I was like, oh, that's it. We are doing this again. And we did. It took me a little while to figure out the right strategy to really make sure that I understood how to scale real estate and that I understood how we would be able to grow what this portfolio looked like with the money that we had at that point in time. And it took me a couple months, but we had that first duplex in 2018, and we actually closed on a fourth family exactly 1 year to date, May 22nd, 2018, May 22nd, 2019. And I already now had 6 stores. I had a parking lot at that point in time. It just really changed what incomes we had coming in. It took us about 3 years before we were able to see 10K months rolling in. Then now a couple of years later, we now have 16 units between New York and the Dominican Republic. We bring in a little over 20K a month. And honestly, we get to live off that, which is pretty fantastic. What was interesting is I mentioned that compromise that I had to make with my husband to give him that home that was so important to him, that American dream. But on the back end, I actually got what I wanted by bringing in that income that has put us in a position where we don't necessarily have to have 9 to 5 jobs. We don't have to work that day to day. We can really live off of those rental properties. And we actually get to live in the Dominican Republic. that was something that just made sense for us to do with my husband being from here. So we actually get to live here for half the year. So I'm recording this episode now at the end of April. I have actually not set foot in the United States since Christmas, since 2023. I've actually not been in the United States at all in 2024. And I'm happy to say that because that was just a goal of mine. I really wanted to learn other languages and understand other cultures and just live a little bit differently and be a little bit outside the box and see what other opportunities there really were in life. And it's been absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, my time here in DR is coming to an end. What's really interesting is my husband, who's from DR, would actually prefer to live in New York, and I, who am from New York, would actually prefer to live in DR. So this time of year is always interesting for us because I'm always so sad to have to leave my home in DR and have to go back to New York. And my husband, on the other hand, is just really excited because he feels like he gets to go home to our place in New York when I feel like our home is here in DR. That actually to me was probably one of the best days of my life. Last April in 2023, my husband and I bought our dream home, our dream vacation home here down in the Dominican Republic. We bought a beachfront property in Punta Cana, absolutely gorgeous. I can see the beach from my front steps. I'm there in literally under 100 steps, and I don't even have to wear shoes to get to the beach. I regularly actually wear shoes even when I'm in the Dominican Republic in general, but it just really showed me what that hard work and putting in all of that time to be able to grow that rental portfolio really had that payoff. Investing in real estate is not a get rich quick scheme. It is not a mailbox money space. This is really something that slow and steady and building on building and putting in the time and the energy and growing strategically will really pay off in time. And that's what I think is so beautiful about it. So just really for us to get to that tipping point after, 5 or so years was just so beautiful to be able to see, and I was so happy to kinda come through that other side. So this time it's the first winter where we've been able to live in our dream home for the whole winter, which has just been absolutely fantastic. So I've enjoyed it. What's great is now with our rental portfolio, that's something that you're probably saying, but how are you managing that? You're down in DR. How are you managing this property? One thing that I thought was really important, since I knew I wanted to live abroad again, was from the very beginning, when we first started buying those first properties, was to really put systems in place to manage our rentals. That was something we actually manage all of our rentals ourselves. And it was really important to still be able to retain that control and to also keep our costs down by being able to manage. And as crazy as it sounds, it's really actually not that difficult to be able to manage from abroad. So when we're down here in DR, we can actually manage our rental properties back in New York. When we then are in New York, we're actually able to manage our properties down here in DR. And what's great is actually the dream home that we bought that's beachfront. Even though we're living here for a couple months out of the year, we actually rent that out as a short-term rental when we're not here. So what's great is that we still have the income coming in, which affords us to actually live here. So we don't have to dip into savings. We don't have to use other funds. It's really a property that's taking care of itself, which is amazing. And we get to just be in a different place. And I never have to see snow, which is all for me has always been a very big goal. So when it comes to my portfolio, we are still in growth phase. I'm still in an acquisition phase. I'm still looking to purchase more properties at this point in time. We had bought our most recent property in December of 2023. I closed on a three-family in Westchester County, New York, an area I really like to buy. And actually, I own two other properties on that same corner on those same streets. So it was just really, really great to be like another place that I only need one ladder because I can store that at one property and carry that right across the street. And what was actually beautiful about it was when we were buying the three family, one of the things that was very appealing to me, besides the actual numbers, that was going to bring in profit, but another 2 grand a month just by picking up this one simple property, which was fantastic. But it was fully rented. Okay. So I'd have to deal with vacancies, really didn't have to do any rehab, anything like that. I'd already had tenants in place. They had lived there for years. So we were expecting them to be able to stay. Then as we got closer, one of the tenants, their lease was up and they actually decided not to renew. And that was actually before we closed. So totally understandable. They ended up moving out right before closing, right before closing, a few days, if I remember correctly. So we knew now that that was actually a unit that we had to do. Perfect. Remember when I mentioned that it was right on the same corner as one of our other properties? One of our other tenants down the street from us who had been there for years, she had mentioned that her sister helps with watching her children. So said, "Hey, this actually is a great opportunity for my sister now to take that unit in the new building. So then that way it'll be easier for her to be able to watch her sister's kids and to be close in the neighborhood and things." And she actually wasn't very happy with her landlord. There's a lesson to everybody out there. She's a fantastic tenant, pays rent, takes great care of the place. The landlord was just not responsive, just didn't take care of anything, didn't maintain anything, and that was actually why they lost this great tenant, was just because they just didn't care to do anything about it. So we were able to pick her up, put her in that first unit. Then the tenant on the top floor, we're buying this place, I gotta be honest, the tenant on the top floor was my biggest concern. Place was not well kept. It was very dirty, was not seeming to follow any of the rules, just certain things that once again, the seller clearly did not allow smoking in the apartment, did not allow subletting in the apartment, all these other little things that you can tell were kind of going on with that place. And my husband and I realized if we were going to buy that property, that was really probably a problem tenant that we were going to have to deal with if that was either getting her on board with following leases, or if that was possibly having to evict her or removing her from the unit, whatever that looked like, my husband and I decided, okay, we'll take that on. Luckily, she just decided like a week or two before the closing, I'm just going to go find somewhere else. I don't know why, but she ended up deciding to move beforehand, which was absolutely fantastic for us. But now I had a second unit. Now I had a rehab. So now I had to redo the first floor for our current tenant's sister. Now we had to do the top floor. And like I said, this tenant really did not keep this property in good condition. So there was a lot more work to be done there. But one of our other tenants, same thing, right down the street, was actually looking to move into an apartment that had more space. She wanted an extra bedroom. So we had her as a tenant for years and absolutely is a fantastic tenant. We didn't want to lose her. So it was great to offer to her, hey, do you just want to move down the corner? Do you want to move literally across the street and see a unit that would have the bedroom count that you're looking for? And she was open to it, loved the idea of it. And it was actually great because she was really happy with us as landlords and really liked how we managed things. So she was happier to move across the street into another unit that we had available. So she knew what she was getting with us as landlords. We knew what we were getting with her with tenants. And that was great. But the problem with that now was then we had to do a third rehab because now she moved out of her unit. So we had to then renovate the first unit for the sister, the top unit for then that tenant to move across the street. And then now we had to redo the rehab for the tenant that switched sides, that wanted to upgrade to a bigger bedroom count. So we have done since December 3 rehabs. So that was a lot. Now we had to find a new tenant also to be able to rent out that. Once again, one of the things that I love about renting in New York is that things run fast. So we were able to find a fantastic tenant, worked right up the street, great job, great tenant, been fantastic. She was ready there in the second that rehab had actually been completed. So we are back to full capacity on that. So now pretty much everything has been renovated that it has to be. I'd be happy not to have to do any reno or get any reno bills for a little while. But now we're kind of back to that place. And what's cool is that all of those renos were actually things that we were doing abroad. Those were things that I'm down here on a beach in the Dominican Republic, and I'm managing our team that is overseeing this rehab in another country, hours away. And it was just so cool, just such a reminder of all the things that now is presenting to us to use these tools as landlords to give us a better quality of life. There's no need to go knock on doors for rent money. There's no need to knock on doors or go to the bank to cash checks. Those are now things that you can do with simply just putting some systems into place, which has been absolutely fantastic. So really proud that those worked out. And honestly, we told you we bought a 3-family. I told you we had to redo the first floor and redo the third floor. So that means that there's that second floor that we haven't talked about here. Second floor, a little bit of our problem child right now. So didn't seem to have so many red flags. We'd always met the person that was there letting us in. We knew it was working on the lease, had kids, ages, just timelines seemed to match up. Then when we went and took over the property, all of a sudden we kind of realized like, hey, there seems to be some more people on this property than we were necessarily expecting. Or now all of a sudden there were just little things with either noise complaints. And remember that we know the tenant on the first floor, we know the tenant on the third floor because she was with us for years. So if there's issues in the property, we know which unit that's coming from. Unfortunately, that's the middle. So we've really been able to work with that tenant the best we could. We've been trying our best to keep our other tenants happy because we do not want them to leave. But right now, we are still in that state of, is this tenant on the second floor going to be there in a few months or not? We are definitely not renewing. We can absolutely say that right now. But that is something that right now we are in a place of having to send out legal notices through our attorney to really make sure that they either start abiding by the lease or unfortunately they're going to have to leave. Okay. So that's called a cure or quit. That's really saying, like, hey, get on board, start following the conditions that you agreed to in the lease, or quit and get out. So we will see what happens. I'll have to give an update to that, or maybe we'll be making a podcast here in a couple of weeks all about the legal process or the eviction process or whatever that looks like. But that's just the risk that you take when you are investing, when you are inheriting tenants, when you have any type of tenants. Those are all things that are going to be a possibility for you as a real estate investor. And the thing that's most important is you have those things in reserves. You have a good team around you to really advise you and to go through this process. And three, you really understand the steps that you need to go through, especially in your state, in your municipality, to move forward. So I feel very, very confident. And that's one tenant out of the other 16 that we have. I'll be okay with that. We're working our way through that. And I would love for the tenant to get on board, start following the instructions, the lease that they agree to, and hopefully we can have a amenable ending to that lease, but we shall see what that looks like. So that's going on right now. My husband probably can't hear me as I'm recording this episode, so I will say probably looking to pick up another rental property at some point now in 2024, probably buying back something in New York at that point in time, but more to come on that. I feel like anytime you kind of go through this acquisition phase, there's kind of those ups and downs of bought a property, get property settled, bought a property, get property settled. And I think that's really important because I see so many women in our Lady Landlords community that will purchase and purchase and purchase, but then they're adding more properties to tenant management systems that unfortunately just maybe they're not actually systems, maybe they're just not well put together. And unfortunately, I've seen so many women kind of get burned by not really having that tenant management and piece in place. And then now all of a sudden they're purchasing another property. It's kind of like adding fuel to an uncontrolled fire, right? We need to really make sure that as we continue to scale, to me, having more properties should not equate to more time, right? Or more oversight on your properties. It's really important to make sure to put time efficiencies, to put systems into place when it comes to tenant management. So that way, as you can continue to scale, you're focusing more time on how to be able to scale your property and what that growth looks like, rather than all those little decisions that we have to make as landlords throughout the day. So that's coming from me. That's what I'll start looking for back when I sadly get back to New York later this month in a few weeks, is really figuring out what's going to be the next property that you're going to be picking up and how am I going to break that news to my husband that we're going to be buying another property in 2024. So more news on that coming soon. But what I love is that even though I'm kind of in that tenant management phase, we still have so many ladies in the Lady Landlords inner circle that are still buying properties, that are still growing their portfolios. We'd actually had 8 ladies pick up properties in the past 3 months. And I think that is absolutely amazing. 8 ladies in the Lady Landlords mentorship, and they're just buying and picking up properties and being able to move forward. I think this is amazing. Chrissy and Aaron had an accepted offer. They are out of state investors out of California. You can actually listen to Chrissy's episode here on the Lady Landlords podcast. They actually bought their first rental property back at the end of 2023. And it's just so amazing to see here we are early 2024 and already have another accepted offer, same market, same team, just absolutely fantastic for them to be able to picking up their second property in 6 months. I think is absolutely fantastic. We have Brooke. Brooke is another out-of-state investor down in Florida. Originally, she really wanted to stay in that area. And unfortunately, it just really wasn't the right fit. She went through all the right steps to really evaluate markets and see what was going to be the best options for her, the money that they had at that point in time. And they actually ended up deciding to go out of state and just picked up another property. So could not be more proud of Brooke and Josh. Danielle. We have Danielle. She picked up 3 properties already in the past 4 months, which is just absolutely amazing. Just the ability, once you have, and this is something that we talk about in the mentorship a lot, once you have that clear plan, that clear strategy, listen, real estate is not all that difficult. There are proven strategies out there. There are proven ways to scale. There are proven ways to make this business work. What's important is to figure out which one of those proven paths is the right one for you, and then just kind of put that system on repeat to be able to pick up properties. And Danielle has done such a great job of really getting clear on what she's looking for and taking action and going out and picking them up. And this is something that you can do too. This has been something that just watching her grow and be able to do that has been fantastic. We have Jen. Jen actually just closed today. I got the message earlier today, right as I was planning on filming this episode. So I'm so happy to hear this. We've been working through a lot of issues that popped up with the lender, with the sale of that property. And Jen, congratulations on closing. I think it's absolutely amazing that you were able to add something to your portfolio. And I know what I love about what you did, Jen, is it wasn't exactly what we'd originally talked about. But as we really started to work through what was the right strategy for you, what did you really want? What were you really looking for in life? We actually adapted your real estate investing plan to fit what was going on in your life and really what was a fit for you at that point in time. And I think that's really cool. I feel like I see so many women that start to chase, oh, well, this is what Becky did. So I'm going to do exactly what Becky did. Or this is what Danielle did. So I'm going to do exactly what Danielle did. And unfortunately, that's just kind of not how this works. We all need to think about what exactly it is that's going to work for us and go that path. Cool. Learn from what Becky did. Learn from what Danielle did, but piece it together and say, hey, how is this now going to work for me? How does that education fit into what I want, what I need, what my family needs, and for my long term goals? And honestly, ladies, that's going to be the difference. That's going to start to be able to give you the confidence to make the decisions that you need to take that action. All right. I'm going to give another shout out to Wendy. Wendy as well. She actually down in North Carolina decided that New York was really a place, saw really what I was doing in certain areas and said, hey, if this is where somebody else is finding good deals, I'm going to look there too. And more power to you, Wendy, because you found a great opportunity, just got into contract. I know your closing is coming up, but it was so great to see you really go through those steps, ask the questions, learn what you needed to, all about deal analysis, all about being able to analyze different markets through our program in the inner circle, and then go out there and actually implement that. And just in a few short months, already have a property that is going to be cash flowing in New York so fast. So I think that's amazing. Kathleen, you and Tommy, you guys are also looking in New Jersey. I love the fact that you were willing to take that opportunity for your first house ever to actually go with the idea of house hacking. If you're not familiar with house hacking is the idea of being able to purchase a property where you'll be living in one portion of it and renting out the others. This is huge because you can usually put down a lower down payment on that property. So it's really a lower barrier to entry, which just for so many women is just an amazing way to get their foot in the door for their first rental property. Not only that, but it really cuts down your cost of living. So this is going to be great if you're saying, hey, well, it cost me $1,000 to live in my current unit, whatever my mortgage is, whatever my rent may be. But you know what? Hey, with this strategy, if you could either live for maybe $400 or $200, or hell, get paid to live for free, that's going to be an absolute game changer because that's all that. And now you're adding an extra $1,000 to your savings every single month. Now that's either stuff that you could put towards your bills, put towards leaving your day job, starting a side hustle, traveling, giving yourself a break, or putting it in a savings account and using that to purchase a down payment on another property for your next rental. All of those things are just ways to really be able to grow what that portfolio looks like, especially when you're starting out. And that's why house hacking, which is the way that I got started in real estate, is such a great point of entry for so many female real estate investors. Lastly, Beata, she actually just got the most recent accepted offer out of our inner circle members. Beata joined earlier this year. I think it was still in January. So still this year, a few months ago only, and has come into the program and just followed instructions, followed the program, followed the steps, put in the work, asked the questions, and went out and did it and really just trusted the system. And I feel like that's one of the things that I've really noticed with our members that are successful within the Lady Landlords mentorship is those that come in really saying like, I am ready for this. I understand that it's not just always going to be, sunshine and rainbows and always going to be like the easiest here, but willing to just say, hey, this is something that I want because I really have a mission that's greater than just, just wanting to do something a little bit different. Hey, have some free time, like pick up a hobby, but really saying like, hey, I'm ready to change my life. I'm ready to change the financial future of my family. I am ready to do this for my kids. It's those women that really come into the program saying, I want this, I'm ready for it. I understand that it's going to be work. I understand that there's going to be things that I'm going to have people that are going to tell me no, and something's not going to work out and that's going to be difficult. But you know what? I'm going to get through those hard times because I see the greater good and I know what it's going to be worth on the other side. Are the women that I'm seeing that are just absolutely knocking it out of the park in this industry in real estate investing. And we've had so many members in the Lady Lenders mentorship that have just been exploding in growth this year. And it is April, and I am so excited for it. Even those that don't get a property, I want to address that because I'm sure there's somebody listening to this podcast that's like, man, I feel like a failure now. I didn't buy anything. I want to tell you, if you're still going out there and going through the steps, if you're looking at properties, if you're talking to a realtor, if you're talking to wholesalers, if you're going and looking at properties, if you're running numbers, if you're practicing just doing a deal analysis, or even, hey, maybe you're just at the point right now in your real estate investing journey where you're just listening to some podcasts and getting educated. I want to say kudos to you because this is still something you have to do. You don't have to be here. You don't have to be listening to the sound of my voice for, the 30, 45 minutes here, but you're really doing something for you. And those small steps is what it takes to be able to live differently in the future. So do recognize that all because you didn't buy a house today, all because you don't have another property to celebrate, doesn't mean you don't have anything else to celebrate. So as we kind of wrap up here today, my recommendation to you is just to, when this ends, and when I say goodbye to you, just to think for a minute about what is one thing that you did to grow your real estate portfolio this week. Like I said, it could be as simple as just listening to this podcast. It could be as simple as just spending a little bit of time in the Lady Landlords Facebook group to say, hey, let me just kind of learn a little bit more. Let me just go and see what other landlords are dealing with, what that looks like. Those types of things, those are wins. Those are wins. Those are things that will lead to that growth. And kudos to you for showing up. And please continue to do so. I'm always here if you need any help. You always know how to reach out to me. Feel free to leave a comment down here, or you can always reach out to me in the Lady Landlords Facebook group. If you are interested in joining the Lady Landlords Inner Circle, also shoot me an email at becky@lady-landlords.com, or you can shoot me over a DM on Instagram at @BeckyNova. Happy to chat more about how we can support your journey and help make sure that you're taking the education that you're learning here on these podcasts and really start to put it into practice. So maybe in the next quarter, we can give you a shout out talking about your next rental property. Thank you very much for joining me here today. I am going to enjoy my last little bit of time here in the Dominican Republic on the beach, and I will see you all back when I get to New York shortly and start talking about the growth of our rental portfolio and the next property that we're going to be buying. So thank you very much for joining me here. Please do make sure to hit that subscribe button so you do not miss another episode of the Lady Landlords podcast. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please do make sure to leave us a 5-star review. This actually helps other women be able to find our podcast and be able to get the support that they need, and to understand that there's a community of women out there just like you that are also growing their rental portfolios. So thank you so much, and see you back in the Lady Landlords Facebook group. Thank you for listening to the Lady Landlords podcast. If you're feeling stuck in your real estate investing journey, visit lady-landlords.com to book a 15-minute orientation call with me and see if you're ready to join our mentorship program. Or you can subscribe to our newsletter and join our Facebook group for exclusive real estate investing tips and offers. Invest with confidence. Become a Lady Landlord today.